and you're going to get out there. And by the time he got there, the town was, there's maybe 3,000 people in the town. There were 2,000 people. They had childcare, they had, volunteers, they had people to help, keep it all legal. Amazing work. But you're right, if they shut down Facebook, we would all be much more out into the streets and on the streets.
Do you have any message to the evildoers of the world? I read your page. You said something beautifully that just stuck into my mind. You said you said love the sinner and hate the sin. The ones who are in charge, there's still some time for them to end what they're doing and be greeted. Come back to the people and be greeted as a hero for not pursuing your orders. What would you say to them? How could you convert them back to good?
Well, I think there's two different conversations. One is with the people who are in power, who have got swept up in this movement of power grab and still have something here. I know there were some Republican senators. There was one Republican senator, Senator Schultz, who from the beginning came out and said, this is not what I signed up for. And when they seized the Capitol, the Democrats protected his staff. So there's those who are on the fence who I just implore to look into your heart and think about your own families and the earth. And that this is a movement that's we will prevail. And we would just as soon have you working with us. And I have been trying to create an atmosphere within our community where we can welcome those who had been working on that side, who get it, and come over here. In fact, they used to talk, before the big rallies, there was this big outcry that the Tea Party, they're sending in people from Illinois, and the Republicans are sending in all these people. And we get to the protests, and the Tea Party members, the enemy, were small, but they had these looks on their faces like, we've been lied to. You told us these were union thugs. This is the teacher that teaches my children. So I want to say to those people, you're being lied to, and the powers that be, they don't give a crap about you. You think you're working for them. Well, Hitler had this organization, I think they were called the Black Shirts or the Brown Shirts. And they were the ones that originally went out and rustled up the Jews and beat them up and killed them, in the beginning. And in the end, he had to exterminate all of them because they had gotten so far out of hand. And that's what will happen. No one's going to save you. The other part of this movement is what I call the sociopaths. My governor is a sociopath. He's a narcissist sociopath. He has absolutely no emotion present within him. And those are the people that, this is my analogy. I'm a pacifist. I don't believe in killing as a way of dealing with issues. However, if there's a rabid dog running around the neighborhood, I don't suggest that you capture him and torture him, but you have to protect the neighborhood to take out the rabid dog. And if these leaders are going to be without any emotion and destroying our planet, I'm not suggesting that we kill them. That's not at all what I'm saying. But what is the answer then? If you can't reach them emotionally, what's going to be the answer for that? Somebody tell me. But
lock them up and feed them organic food and give them good musical, the frequency of love, 5 to 8, and just get them spiritually awakened and active.
If we kidnap David Koch and we bring him to northern Wisconsin and we put him by the lake and give him some really great cocktails and bombard him with love, and just pound away at him until he can feel something.
You have to hug 200 times a day.
Right.
That's what you gotta do.
So, but I think what's really important for us, and I've stressed this over and over in the work that I do in the movement, is not to hate. This is about the law, and it's about rights. It's not about hating or getting even, or we're not victims, to not have the victim mentality, that we all created this together, and now we're going to stand up, and we're going to do what's right to make it work. And the thing to remember is, there's so many more of us than there are them. And I've learned this in the Wisconsin Revolution, that there would be all these reports about, you know, oh my gosh, the Republicans are going to recall the Democrats. You know, there's this big scare that we were going to lose our heroes, you know, the Democrats who fled so that we could read this. And then you start to pull back the propaganda and you realize, for example, on Facebook, we have a Recall the Governor Facebook. We've got 60,000 members. I went to check all the Republicans, all the Recall Democrats pages. First of all, there was only, of 14, there were only 4, and the most had maybe 200 members. And they would say, oh, we're going to have an event at the Stoughton post office, and one of us would go monitor it, and there would be no event. So there's a lot of big talk about how much power they have, but I would question that authority and understand there's so many more of us around the world.
How do we come to a new paradigm where we all agree that the ones who have built up these vast places of work that is actually human hostile, like the health industry is just doing the opposite of what they're doing, and the judicial system is doing the opposite of what they're doing, and the war industry and a lot of these bad chemical companies and the oil companies, there's going to be a lot of free workforce. A lot of people are going to be without a job. So how can we create new jobs and offer them a new way of living? Maybe they can be producing these cars that they have in Japan that runs on combustion air, or contributing the cleaning up of the plastic and converting that back into oil, or grow hemp for textiles and fuel, and you know,
yeah.
We have to find new ways of offering them something new to do.
Well, I think it begins, we have to look at it as a very multifaceted movement. So for example, for me, how would it start for me? Well, it starts with, for me, understanding where my purchasing power goes. What am I buying? Where is my money? What's in the bank? How do I use fuel? How do I cut down on the plastics? Where do I get my food from? If I don't have that access to the organic farms that I have, how do I find it? In healthcare, I don't have healthcare. In the United States, you don't get it. You don't have to have it. There's a lot of people who need it. I don't happen to. I'm a very healthy person, but people begin to look at their own health and how are they dealing with their health. There's a whole pharmaceutical industry worldwide that wants to keep us on antidepressants and believing that we're sick and we have these phobias. So how do we individually begin to get out from underneath this healthcare industry that we think we need the healthcare industry? What are more holistic ways of dealing with those things? It takes facing your fear, because we're so addicted to having some doctor walk in the room and give us a pill and then charge us $140. There's so many other ways to do that. I think there's going to be engineers who are just chomping at the bit to be able to use the raw materials to make the new kinds of engines. So it's really on every single level that we begin to shift this, and from that a momentum, a movement is created that begins to then, like you were saying, hey, you know, we have this old, you know, warehouse that my grandfather left the family that's just sitting here abandoned. Let's put in the hydroponic you know, and then you in the community, you call out the hydroponic farmers, the farmers who want to do this. And it's very much taking back our local power, and then we become a force. You know, you have a small force in, let's say, northern Wisconsin, who suddenly connects up with a small force in Egypt or a small force in Iran, and we start to be able to, like, I send people around the world, I send them cash secretly, just because they have nothing. The people that I've met through my travels, $20 to me is huge for them. So how can we connect up globally? How can we support each other on those local levels? And I think those are the things that are beginning to arise, and there's a lot of visionaries just waiting to have this this vision come about, and I'm one of them. I'm all for creating these new ideas and new possibilities that we can work from.
Creative renovation, that's what we're after.
Yes, yes. Regeneration and localization and sovereignty, you know, becoming sovereign individuals.
And no more killing machines either.
Yeah.
Stop producing that right away.
You know, and you know, this comes from the corporations who make the machines and the weapons. When I found out how much money the United States gave Egypt just to have weapons, it was billions of dollars compared to a few million for economic development. We need to switch all that around, and that requires electing candidates who will support that. But that also requires education on our local level of the people who, because there's a lot of people in the United States who think that this terrorist threat is outside us and we need these weapons, and to be able to educate them and say, no, we've met the enemy and it's us. And if the entire world disarms. I had this idea, and it was just kind of a crazy idea, but what if every single nation, just as we are now, just for a time being, we cancel out everybody's debt, and everybody got to start brand new with with the resources that they had. Now, granted, there's a, you know, discrepancy between resources, but the United States is a very big country. We have a lot of resources within our borders, but we don't get to use those resources over there. We can choose then to start to trade resources if we have this that somebody else wants, but we need to get our houses in order, and that all the people of every nation as being charged, every individual member of every nation is being charged to stand up and participate in how is your nation going to change. And in the case of Libya, for example, or Yemen, I think, is going through some violent times. Me, as somebody who's safe in the United States, I hate to see that happen. I wouldn't want to be that person, but I have to respect your sovereignty of how you're going to choose to do it, or how you have to do it. I'm hoping it won't get violent in the United States, but already I've seen reports of, you know, riot gear coming in and hauling off protesters, and who knows where they go. But to be able to, each nation, rebuild on this premise of, how did Susan Sarandon say, instead of having the politics based on economics, it's based on the compassion of human rights. And that becomes the priority, not the bottom line of the dollar bill, but what is the quality of life, what are the human rights, how do we promote the human rights. Big jump maybe, but maybe this is our time. Maybe this is how it looks when that change occurs, when the worldwide revolution says, we're done. War is no longer a form of conflict resolution.